Hello my fellow Archons, and welcome to another video. Grim Reminders introduced a brand new type of special card into the game, that of Revenants. Similar to anomalies, they are extremely rare cards that can appear in any house, except these ones are all connected by the theme that they are creatures from past sets returned in spectral form. For example, Immortal Grekking marks the return of Overlord Grekking as a terrifying ghost. In addition, they all get archived when destroyed if you're haunted. In today's video, we'll be ranking each of these Revenants from worst to best, and I have here with me Flightless Pheasant, a fellow KeyForge content creator, here to help me out.
What's up, Archons? I'm Flightless Pheasant, and thanks so much to Aembermedes for having me over for this one.
We have 11 Revenants to rank, so without further ado, let's get into it. At number 11, we have Xenos Dark Shadow, based on Xenos Blood Shadow from Worlds Collide and Mass Mutation. Xenos was originally notable for being incredibly difficult to remove from the board through fighting, boasting the highest amount of hazardous seen by any creature in the game at that point. But Xenos Dark Shadow brings that concept to a whole new level. She has Assault, Hazardous, and Splash Attack X, and reads, X is the number of cards in your discard pile. Destroyed if you're haunted, archive Xenos Dark Shadow. Later in the game, Dark Shadow could easily hit exorbitant numbers such as Hazardous 20, Splash Attack 25, but that's really all she has going for her. She's a big, sticky creature, and that's it. No special abilities or effects to go with it. In addition, assault damage technically happens before the fight actually takes place, meaning if Dark Shadow fights a creature and the assault damage kills it, the splash attack damage won't get dealt to anyone, it won't go off. That fact, in addition to how vanilla the creature is, puts Xenos Dark Shadow at the bottom of the list for me. At least it doesn't come with Toad this time. At number 10 is Cincinnatus Resurrexit, based off the infamous Cincinnatus Rex from Worlds Collide. Their power and armor are the same, but this time he reads Cincinnatus Resurrexit gets +1 power for each Ember on it. Play fight, capture 2 Ember, and exalt him. Destroyed if you're haunted, archive him. So when he initially hits the table, if he captures 2, he'll be a whopping 9/4, which is pretty massive. However, just like Xenos Dark Shadow, he's susceptible to direct damage or removal. He offers some decent Ember control, but at the cost of exalting himself, which is his biggest drawback. The exalt isn't optional, and it happens on play, making that risk of giving the opponent free Ember very much present. But if your opponent is lacking in the board control department, relying mostly on fighting to remove creatures from the board, since he will be extremely difficult to remove the more he fights and the more Ember he captures. And interestingly, he's the only card in the whole set that exalts, a neat bit of trivia. At number 9, I put Quickslick's Gravemaster. He's based off the rare Quickslick's Plaguemaster, seen in every set containing Mars through Winds of Exchange. Before, he explicitly targeted human creatures, but now in spectral form, he reads Play, purge a creature from a discard pile. Deal 2 damage to each creature that shares 1 or more traits with the purged creature. And as always, he's archived when destroyed if you're haunted. I get some major Extinction vibes from Gravemaster, operating through the use of traits. The first thing that came to mind was that he'll be great anti-token tech, potentially being able to blast multiple Grumpuses or Priests all at once. In addition to the mass damage, he can also purge creatures from discard piles, a great ability to have in of itself. If he keeps getting archived, being able to recur that play effect over and over could be pretty solid, but it's still nothing too special or explosive. Next up, in the number 8 slot, is Encounter Golem. I'll actually hand it over to Flightless Pheasant to talk about this one. Take it away.
I'll take number 8 if you don't mind. This one actually goes to Encounter Golem, who started out as an upgrade in Counter's suit. Encounter Golem has Hazardous 3, and it says, when you play an action card, put that card on the bottom of your deck from your discard pile. This is a really interesting effect, and it has some good potential to allow you to keep getting value out of some of your better action cards. But because the card doesn't stay in your discard pile, it actually works against some of the haunted shenanigans that this set really wants. Like, In Here Somewhere could grab that same action and put it into your archive, a much more useful place than the bottom of your deck. However, because it loads it onto the bottom of your deck, if you did find yourself in a situation where you could cycle the same 2 or 3 actions on the bottom of your deck, you could keep using the same turn over and over again. And if those actions were particularly good, like Rot Feast and Amber Storm, you could even generate a lot of Amber that way. Plus, if your opponent did kill your Encounter Golem to try to stop the effect, you'd almost certainly be haunted and it'd end up getting archived instead of destroyed, so maybe you could even set it back up again. However, this is a pretty niche situation and it's not likely to be possible in most decks, so generally speaking, Encounter Golem is going to be better in the decks that work well with it. Still, a really good card.
At number 7 is Ghostly Dr. Varoctor, based on, you guessed it, Dr. Varoctor from Dark Tidings. He has elusive and reads Play Reap. Return a card from your discard pile to the top of your deck. That's actually a pretty solid ability, and it says to return any card, not just creature, meaning you could put your permanent record or something you discarded earlier for the scrap ability back on top of your deck every time you play or reap with Ghostly Varoctor. The recursion of power cards or even setup cards is always a welcome tool, allowing you to stack the top of your deck based on what's in your hand or what you know is coming, and make your next turn better than ever. In the number 6 slot, I've placed Phantom Drummernaut, based on the one and only Drummernaut from Age of Ascension. He now reads Play Fight, return a creature from your discard pile to your hand. He's kinda like a super powered Witch of the Dawn. Now unlike Ghostly Varoctor, Drummernaut can only return creatures, but where Varoctor returns things to the top of the deck, Drummernaut returns them straight to your hand, which is why I put him a step above Varoctor for that potentially more immediate value if you return a creature of the house you're currently in to hand. You can get those LBS Strays or Shock Herders back to use them again. Drummernaut is also a pretty sizable body, so you should be able to get at least 1 or 2 fights off with him and get some value out of his fight effect. At number 5 is Portal Monster, based off the relatively little known Portal Monger from Dark Tidings. They both manipulate key costs, though Portal Monster really kicks things up a notch. Reading, if you're haunted, keys cost +1 for each card in your discard pile. Otherwise, keys cost -2. Late in the game, you could start making keys cost +15, +20, +25 easily. That's enough to stop players from forging 90% of the time, perhaps setting you up to play things like Burn the Stockpile. Or if you have a free key cheat like Might Makes Right or Dark Discovery, Portal Monster can help you stall the game until you reach a point where you can forge with it, especially since it gets archived when destroyed if you're haunted, meaning even if your opponent kills it, you can bring it right back and place it on the board again. It does increase both players' key costs, which is what can make it finicky to play with sometimes. That, and if you're not haunted, it makes keys cost -2, which can also be awkward. It's a funky one for sure, but one that I feel like can stop keys pretty consistently and can set you up for success with the right supporting cards. At number 4 is Immortal Grekking, based on the much-loved Overlord Grekking of Coda and AoA. Immortal Grekking reads, play, take control of an enemy creature and place it anywhere in your battle line. Until Immortal Grekking leaves play, that creature belongs to Immortal Grekking's house. That effect is actually so awesome. You get to take control of any enemy creature, a Haunting Witch, a Brick Nasty, an Eddy, maybe even a Daimo Eldergast, and place it anywhere in your battle line. That means if you have a couple creatures that you wish had a little more protection, Grekking could take a creature with taunt and throw it next to them. And best of all, it's put into Immortal Grekking's house until he leaves play, so even if the stolen creature doesn't match any houses in your deck, it's still usable. And even when Grekking dies, the stolen creature still remains in your battle line. It's just a pure value card, and playing it over and over if it gets destroyed while you're haunted makes it that much more threatening. We've reached the top 3, and that number 3 is Duma the Returned, based on Duma the Martyr from Coda and AoA. She now reads Destroyed, return the top 3 cards of your discard pile to your hand. If you're haunted, archive Duma the Returned. If you've got valuable cards you just played that you want access to a second time ASAP, Duma can help get them to you, even on a repeatable basis if you're haunted. The timing on this one may be tricky to pull off at times, but where other Revenants like Varoctor and Drummernaut only returns 1 card at a time, maybe multiple if they survive a few turns, Duma returns 3, which can be quite potent. They all have their merits, but I think Duma may possess some more explosive potential than the others. At number 2 is Revived Zaorha, based on one of the newest additions to the Crucible's cast, General Zaorha from Winds of Exchange. This revived version reads, play, if your opponent has more forged keys than you, forge a key at current cost. If you do, purge Revived Zaorha. If you're falling behind in keys, this is actually a pretty easy key cheat to catch up with, at least depending on what house it shows up in. At current cost is the same limitation as Spooky Charge. One of my favorite things about Zaorha is that, just like all the others, he gets archived when destroyed if you're haunted. So if you play him down once and you can't forge with him, hopefully he'll find his way into your archives, where you can keep him until you have a turn set up where you're ready to forge with him. Of course, if you're ahead on keys, he's not doing much, but as a catch-up mechanic, I'd say he's pretty sweet. And at the very top, the peak of all 11 Revenants and the number 1 spot is Spectral Ruth, based on Smiling Ruth from the Coda Mass Mutation and Dark Tidings days. She reads, play, if you forge the key this turn, archive your discard pile. This immediately caught everyone's attention as soon as it was revealed for its ridiculously powerful effect. Sure, the timing window to successfully fire off that play effect for max value is extremely small, but when you can slide into that pocket and possibly archive over half your deck, the payoff is enormous. And of course, she can get archived when you're haunted, so you can wait for that perfect moment to strike. The potential in this card is astronomical, and I can't wait to see if it shows up in any high-level competitive decks. In my mind, it is definitely deserving of the number 1 spot. And there we have it. Every Revenant and Grim Reminders ranked from worst to best. Let me know what you guys think of this list and what your list looks like. Where would you rank these cards based on your own experience? Huge thank you to Flightless Pheasant for helping me out with this video. This collaboration was lots of fun. Be sure to check out his video on the lore and backstory behind the Revenants over on his YouTube channel. I'll leave a link down in the description below. I would highly recommend subscribing to him. He covers some very interesting and unique KeyForge topics. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again in the next one. See you later.